This is an overview of how the Roman provinces were ruled during the imperial age under the emperors. Okay, the map on the screen at the moment is an overview of the provinces controlled by Rome under Augustus. Now, I've gone over the border in the north and reinforced it with some very attractive pink. And you should be able to see that one of the borders coming down from the route of what we would now consider to be Denmark, that's an inlet for the Elbe River, or the Albis, as the Romans would have called it. And that runs partly down through Germania. And the second river, which acts as a border, is the Danube, or the Danubis, which runs all the way out to the Black Sea. Now that's effectively where Augustus can finalize the borders of the Roman Empire, especially after one key incident which caused him to rein in his more expansionist ideas. The parts of the map in yellow are provinces which were under Roman control by 31 BCE. The green parts were added shortly into Augustus's reign, and then the pink parts are actually not provinces but client states of Rome. We'll come back to that. So it expanded under Augustus as part of this Roman sense that they were the divinely anointed people. They were the ones who were destined for greatness. They were the ones who should rule the world. In Virgil, we have this line, "Tu regere imperio populos, Romani memento." Roman, remember by your strength to rule the earth's peoples. In another video, we will look at the influence of art and poetry on the Roman sense of identity. But for now, it's enough for us to know that the Romans genuinely did feel that they were the people best equipped, not only by their character, but by divine sanction, by the gods, to run the world. Until 9 CE. Now, the Battle of Teutoburg Forest in modern-day Germany, when 3 entire legions were destroyed by the Cherusci tribes. And this, for those of you of a certain age, will remember Brian Blessed in I, Claudius repeatedly shouting out, "Publius Varus, where are my legions?" Look it up on YouTube if you're not old enough to remember. And every time I see mention of the Teutoburg Forest, that's the first thing that goes through my head. Anyway, the drive to go further east, across the Elbe and across the Danube, that stops at this point. And Augustus is more concerned after this point of just reinforcing and holding what they already have. So he used the Elbe and he used the Danube as natural boundaries to kind of mark the northern and most eastern parts of the empire. A second thing to consider, you remember that Marcus Crassus, in a vain attempt for military glory, decided that he would go and pick a fight with the Parthians. He was killed in the fighting and had molten gold poured down his throat, which is a hell of a way to die. Augustus does not make the same mistake of picking the fight with the Parthians. He actually negotiates a diplomatic peace with the Parthians, but he considered it an enormous success to the extent that there was a triumphal arch constructed in the Roman Forum to commemorate the Parthian peace, even though it wasn't a war. So securing peace and securing stability with the Parthians was actually a major achievement for Augustus, in that it allowed him to put a border around that part of the empire. So, a second map for us to consider now. The green parts of the map here are the imperial provinces. These are the provinces which are controlled by Augustus himself. In the imperial provinces, he could have standing armies. In the pink provinces, these are the senatorial provinces, and they're governed by the Senate, as they had been during the Republic. In the imperial provinces, governors were appointed by the emperor, and these governors were called the legati Augusti, the legates of Augustus. In some of the minor provinces, just while we're here, it's worth mentioning, some of the minor provinces, it was possible for a member of the equestrian class to get the position as governor, and that was the case in Judea, which was governed by Pontius Pilate, who was not a nobile. He was an equestrian anyway. Egypt was slightly different as well. It wasn't governed by Legatus Augusti. It was a special domain, mostly because it was rich and it had a very, very important strategic granary. The emperor had a position almost like a pharaoh in Egypt. The governor who was appointed by Augustus is the Praefectus Augustalis, which means that he governed in the name of the emperor. And I think this might be because in Egypt royalty was important. The Ptolemies, the royal family of Egypt, of whom Cleopatra was the last, the Ptolemies were kept in place because of their efficient and really effective bureaucracy. The administration of running Egypt was really, really a well-oiled machine, and Augustus kept that on, but appointed a Praefectus Augustalis, a governor in the name of Augustus. So let's have a think about what was different under Augustus. The governors were paid salaries under Augustus, which meant that they were paid employees of Augustus. He put in place a new system of communication, a mail service, postal service effectively, which was based on a relay of horses to speed up communication. This was the cursus publicus. Originally this was men on foot, and they would run a certain distance with a message, pass it to somebody else who'd run a certain distance. But later and more logically, it became teams of horses involved in a relay. But this meant that they could travel up to 100 miles per day, or rather a message could travel 100 miles per day. That is a really big step forward, especially when you're governing an empire the size of the Roman Empire as it came to be in this period. Symbols were attached to the messages as they were relayed. So laurel leaves would be attached to news of a military victory. A feather would be fixed to the spear of a messenger who was carrying bad news, so you could kind of see what was coming in advance. Provincial councils were established, which included citizens from the cities of the province. And these councils didn't exercise much in the way of power. In the senatorial provinces, that power came from the Senate. In the imperial provinces, it came from Augustus. But the provincial councils could look after religious observance. But they could arrange also legal complaints and prosecutions. There is no skinny for this. You'll just have to go back through it again and take your own notes. As usual, any questions, see me in class.